Sticking with the automotive theme then, let's talk about these guys for a minute. Now, at some point in 2008, some engineers at Volkswagen realized that they had a bit of a problem with this clean diesel engine that they were going to win with in America, right? It couldn't be competitive on key factors like performance and fuel economy and meet emissions regulations, right? So let's plot out on the grid what their options are at this point when they discover that. Option A, we could just sell fewer of these cars, right? It's not going to be as competitive. We'll lower our sales forecasts and we'll be okay, right? Don't want to do that though if you're intending to become the biggest car maker in the world, so that's not a very good plan. Option B, we can go to Mercedes and say, yeah, we kind of need that blue tech thing you've been working on. We're going to put that in our cars too to get this emissions thing under control. The problem with that is that now the margin on the product is going to be lower because the cost of making each of those cars has gone up, so we don't really want to do that either. We've got option C, which is we say, let's just abandon this whole diesel idea. Nobody wants diesels in America anyway. We'll make a hybrid or a fully electric vehicle. The problem with that is that then we've got to write off the cost of developing this thing and so on and so forth. And then someone thinks, well, hang on. We've got option D. Why don't we just ignore the regulations and cheat? Right? We can fit this defeat device to the car and we'll be all good. That solves all of the problems in one. I think everybody knows which option they went with. They went with option D, very smart. Now let's see how this played out across the grid when it was discovered that I think 15 million of these vehicles were polluting at something like 50 times the legal limit of nitrogen dioxide. Bit of a clash with customers' beliefs and values, especially if they've been sold this vehicle as they were as the environmentally friendly choice. It clashes with your beliefs about the product, clashes with your beliefs about how a business should conduct themselves. You're not going to be too happy about that. Not going to have a great impact on the customer experience either. You'll be wondering, can I drive this thing? Is it illegal? You're looking at the residual values of your car going down and being unhappy. You think, how are Volkswagen going to handle this? At least I've got to go in for some unscheduled maintenance, which is going to be frustrating. Not going to bathe the brand in glory either, and certainly not going to make this clean diesel proposition any more competitive. In fact, it's not going to be competitive at all because it's been withdrawn from sale. Sales volumes are now going down to zero, so you're not going to acquire any customers with this product either. It's also going to impact your retention because you've got to offer to buy these cars back from people. Saw some amazing footage the other day from the BBC showing these enormous car parks just full of thousands of these vehicles just sat there going nowhere. What didn't make the headlines is that Volkswagen also had to reduce the price of all their other vehicles to get skeptical consumers back into the forecourt, which isn't great. You've got the cost of putting right every single one of these vehicles too, and then you've got the fixed costs here of fines from regulators and class action lawsuits. So when all's said and done, a few lines of software code and ignoring one of these elements has cost you an estimated 16.2 billion euro. What's the point? The point is, every element of this grid matters, right? You can't afford to ignore any one of them. And you can't allow one or two to dominate your decision making either. You can't become obsessed with increasing volumes or increasing prices or cutting costs without ending up with a kind of imbalanced grid and the organization eventually toppling. The reason for this is that everything in a business is interconnected, right? So you've got to consider the broader impacts of the decisions that you're making. The kind of structured systems thinking that the grid allows you to do can dramatically reduce the risk of these unforeseen, unintended and undesirable consequences. The question is, how do we actually go about using this thing in practice?